It's the commissioner of the Trsba, Tim Wilshire, and it's obviously season 26, episode 3 of the podcast. Today, it's basically about just a bit of an analysis as we sort of 2/3 into the season. We're 37 games down, and 37 games down, 17 to go in the regular season. 2/3, we're 2/3 done, basically. So that is what is going on. Okay. Rightio. So let's have a look at it, see what's going on. Hey, let's have a look at the top 20 players over the last 2 weeks. No surprise that Luka Doncic is number one. He's 58 fantasy points a game. He's had some monsters. Yeah. Giannis, not surprisingly, is second. Joel Embiid third. These are massive. Look at, and Julius Randle fourth, 49 fantasy points a game, ahead of Joker over the last 2 weeks. LeBron James has been massive, as you can see there. Laurie Markkinen, we'll talk about him later, but he's been a big surprise. Mr. Potato Head, Jason Tatum, he's been massive too. KD's always going to be good. Klay Thompson just had a hot streak, 41.8 fantasy points a game. That's pretty crazy. Ja, we knew he was good. Bam Adebayo has been awesome. Donovan Mitchell's had that big game as well. DeMar DeRozan's been good. LaMelo Ball, great. Harden, I mean, that would usually be in the top 10. It's just been a crazy couple of weeks. We like this, what we've seen with Jalen Brunson and Trae Young. So there's the top 20. It's a bit of, maybe some surprising names there. The Utah Saints. Now, on a 21-game win streak here. 21-game win streak. We've got a backcourt trio, all seem to be healthy at the moment. I think SJ hasn't missed too many games. Neither has Trey or Ja. They're just trying to manage their load a bit. Giggity. So what we're sort of looking at doing, those three have really been fantastic. We've got Zion, unsurprisingly, is taking some time off for the rest of the month, we think. Hero has been great, averaging 32 fantasy points a game over the last 20. They've got that 5-game lead on the Barbs, and that's very handy at the moment with 17 games left. That should give them home court advantage if they can hold off and not, as long as they don't lose 5 games in those next 17, then they should definitely get through. I think the Barbarians are going to finish fairly strong. Vassell is out for 6 weeks. That he came across in that trade about 6 weeks ago, 5 or 6 weeks ago, and so that's an interesting happening there. Alabama decided they were going to blow it up, Hef. I'm not sure how true that was, but decided to get rid of Giannis, and they managed to get this guy, Ant Edwards, along with Jared Allen. We'll talk about that trade maybe a bit later. KD is definitely going under the radar. I think KD is still fantastic. Despite what he's come back from injury-wise, I think what he's actually done here has been nothing short of amazing. And they're 22-15. Just looking, I didn't like them re-signing Westbrook for another 3 years. I think he's really coming down to being close to his use-by date. And I don't see another 3 seasons of Westbrook after this one where he's going to be averaging any more than 25 fantasy points a game. I think he might even be done in a couple of years. So I don't know who's resigned, but that's one thing I didn't like. The bench is still looking good. BI's been out for quite a while. LaMelo's returned, and he's playing really, really well as well. So that's Alabama, but they're coming second in the East, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the Predators, this is the team that is gone from the bottom to the top of the East, as we said. Embiid's doing Joel things. He's been fantastic. Banchero, it's a fairly easy choice for Rookie of the Year. It was a fairly safe choice. I would have taken him number 1 had I had that number 1 pick. Beal and PG missing some games, so this could be a lot worse. It's very tight in the East, as you can see. Levine has been pretty solid, especially lately.
So they've got some fairly good spreader guys. We'll see what the depths are like, though, as we sort of get through the season. The Nerds continue to trade. They've kept their three key guys. They've kept Harden, DeRozan, and Zinger, which are their three key guys. They've obtained Vucevic, which I thought wasn't a bad deal, actually, though, especially if they're trying to make a run for it this year. And all they have to do is really get out of the East, and you just never know. And they you don't need much to really win the East. You just need a lot of luck, I think. That's what sort of seems to be happening here at the moment. They've still got three players that can be resigned as well. So they've got only 8 out of the 11 resigned. Bench players been solid. They've done a lot of trades. I think they lead one of the leaders in trades. And it's crazy the number of trades that these guys do. I think they've led the history of the league or something, 275 trades or something ridiculous. And I think they've got Isaiah Stewart back, I saw as well, which, why trade him if you're going to get him back, sort of thing. They did that deal with us, which was a fairly big deal. I'm not sure they were that happy when they traded away Markel Fultz and CP3, two key bench pieces really for the Nerds. They traded them away for Oubre and shipped away again, and also Lonzo either shipped away again. So they basically use those to get Vooch in, or maybe end up with something like Vooch and Tobias Harris or something like this. So there's always a backup plan with them, but Jags feel good about that particular trade. The Barbarians, let's talk about them. They've been very unlucky of late. I think they've had 9 losses. It's a 28-9. They've got that slightly different, better percentage than the Saints. Tatum, 42.4 fantasy points a game for the season. Really, really good. Leading the way. Curry's been out. Lillard's been very decent. Bam has been really, really good of late. Bam's just really starting to pour it on and really take over. So Bam is good. We know we've mentioned Siakam previously. He's been worldly, I would say. They've had a few injuries that maybe lose some games with Maxey, Fred, these sort of guys missing games. I don't think those guys have really gone up any better. Those starters have done very, very well. I think Bojan Bogdanovic has been really good. But they're always getting some good free agent signings. So we can't forget about them, even though they have lost 9. The OC double-doubles, they're continue their start. Luka Doncic, we said that was number 1 in the league. But the problem is we've got AD back in street clothes. He was doing very well. He was number 3 in number 5, sorry, in
to my boy AD.
Yeah, so what are they doing there? J-Roo's been missing time as well. That hasn't helped. But they're still there. They're only 1 game behind the Barbs. Portis and Pearl being great backups, both in that 25, 26 fantasy point per game vicinity. They really lack a decent pure guard is really one of the issues I'm seeing. If they had a decent pure guard, they might be in a better position, I think. They've only got that J-Ro, and he's out. Who do you play? I don't know. I have to have a look at their games, but it would be something that would annoy me. That is for sure. San Francisco Tigers, they weren't predicted to do as well as they have. 22-15. Tyrese and Fox and Sabonis, Wendell Carter, Scotty Barnes. But the bench needs a nudge. So I don't think they're going to go far in the playoffs unless they do something about that. They are a lot better. They're probably better than most, if not all, the teams in the East. But they definitely need some sort of nudge here. They need something, and we need to see a bit more. East, let's have a look. It continues to look close. We've got the Predators with a 203 average, the Jags with a 200 average. There's only 6 games between them, and there's 1st and 6th. So Wolfhounds and Lions, they won't make the playoffs. The other team we'll talk about here is we've spoken about the Predators. We'll talk about the Brown Cows in a minute. We've spoken about the Wild Boars, the Red Devils. The Jags are doing, that's sort of doing okay, I think. Certainly over 200 is a good average. And I don't know, it'll be a long time you have to go back through the history before that we had an average of that was that solid. The Butchers, Jimmy Butler, Gary Trent in the photo there. These guys, lot of injuries. I think they've got Simmons, but they've had a few injuries there as well. Carl Anthony Towns. So their average doesn't look good. They're in danger of missing the playoffs, but it's still a long way to go. 17 games, and anything can happen in the East. That's what I want to talk to you guys about. Wolfhounds and Lions, in my opinion, they're definitely in the lottery, and they're going to have quite a few balls as well. The Snipers. Let's talk about the Snipers, because I know Wes would like me to talk about the Snipers. They're vastly different to how they used to be. They've got Giannis and Garland. They always had Garland, I think. They got rid of Ant Edwards. They got rid of LaMelo Ball over the year. So they never had LaMelo. But Ant Edwards, they got rid of him, and they got Giannis. They got Oubre, who I think is out again. Irving, very, very good this year. That was a good acquisition. The issue they have is that the West is very strong, and is this ball club deep enough to be able to make a run? Will it even make the playoffs? I think the second bottom or something still. So, but that's their roster. It looks vastly different. I just thought I'd point this out. John Collins there at center. The Brown Cows are pouring it on. They're 19 and 18. The main reason are these two guys here in the photo: Julius Randle, Jeremy Grant. They've really been stepping it up, as has, we know that Jaylen Brown has had an unbelievable year as well. He's always playing well. Barrett, D'Lo, Triple J. Some good depth for those guys in the mid-20s, 26, 27 sort of range. Players, Triple J, a lot better. He's just stepping it up a lot lately. The blocks, man. I think the amount of blocks this guy gets. Let's just go through the busts for the year. Kawhi Leonard, I think, is the biggest bust. I mean, number 75 on average. It's not great. He should be in the top 25, but, he's really load managing stuff. Giggity. It's surprising that he's that far down the list. He was down the list in the first lot when he first had a look at things. Evan Mobley, I think would have preferred him to step up. And we've seen this with pretty much all of those second-year players. None of them have really made a jump forward. We see Cade Cunningham get stuck in his tracks. We saw Scotty Barnes hasn't had a better season than being the Rookie of the Year. Giddey is probably a bit better, but still, not in the top 50, I don't think. Franz Wagner might be the best second-year player at the moment. Some other busts there. Michael Porter Jr. It's hard to know when you have a big year off, especially when he was like in the top 40s 2 seasons ago. So he needs to get back there, in my opinion. Otherwise, in the top 60, if he's not in the top 60, to me, he's probably a bust. JV, we knew he was in the top 50 last year. He's now number 89. Chris Paul was in the top 45 last year. He's at number 84. Kelly Olynyk, but that's age. Kelly Olynyk should be in the top 100. He's 127. Al Horford should be in the top 90. He's 140. Robert Williams should be in the top 90. He's 158. And Sticks, which is Jalen Smith, he's 160. So there's a list of your busts. Some surprises. I mean, some of these may not be surprises to you, but they are to me. SGA at number 10, when I had him about 25, 30 in projections, he's increased his by 9 or so fantasy points a game there. We've had Randall, he's been on a tear, 15. We expected him around 30. Markkanen's been the huge one. We said predicted about 70 or 80. He's in at 26. Banchero, a rookie ranked that high, is surprising. So put that in there. Kuzma, just because, it's Kuzma and he's in the top 35. Aaron Gordon, was in the top 120 last year, moved all the way up to 73. So other transaction highlights. The Wolfhounds did that trade for Lauri Markkanen for Jaden Ivey. That was an interesting trade because Jaden, he was obviously drafted number 4, quite a bright future, but Lauri Markkanen, he's had a good year, man. You can't say he hasn't. He's been really, really good. The Boars and the Snipers, we talked about that 7-player deal before. It involved Ant Edwards, Jared Allen, and Giannis, and other players as well. So I think that's probably a bit of a snapshot of what's been happening there. And that's about it. That's all I've got to talk about at the moment. Happy New Year to everybody. Best of luck in the last 1/3 of the regular season. The NBA has been really good. The scoring's been crazy. One thing we do have to talk about, I think, top teams have always had trouble with the cap, right? They've always had trouble fitting under that $40 million cap. We've had a look at the averages of all the teams that are up. They're up at 5.5 fantasy points a game, but we haven't got to the end of the season yet. But based on just that alone and all the tight caps at the moment, we should increase this cap, shouldn't we? To 41 mil. That's what I'm thinking. Just from 40 to 41, I think it just allows this absurd amount of scoring that we've had to endure. Teams just don't play defense anymore. Teams are finding it hard. It might be this one thing that I'm looking at doing in the off season is changing that cap, because it seems quite ridiculous. I'm happy with most of the other rules. I mean, I know there'd like to be a way to resign 12 players in some cases, because I think that's very difficult. Some of these other rules, I think we need a bit of a look at as well. I just want to get some feedback from you guys. Tell us what rules you think need to be changed. And we can certainly look at bringing something in the off season. And I just went to a concert last night. It was great. We had UB40 Dragon, just 8 kilometers down the road there basically in a big paddock, which is a polo field. And that's absolutely awesome. I know some of you guys know those bands. They've been around for forever, probably before we were alive. We've been alive a long time. They were fantastic. Dragon, they were just great. They were an exceptional to see those guys live for the first time. Yeah. Anyway, all the best. Let me know what you think, boys and girls, GMs. And I'll be prepared. I'm sure there'll be some more trades from Dan before the end of the season. Probably, Dennis probably might not be done either. So I think Dennis might be looking at something there. Will he involve somebody big? It's hard to know. Is he going to be able to resign Maga Porter Jr.? Probably not. But we'll get to that in another episode. He's just sort of biding his time at the moment. I think the Saints are looking really, really good. The Barbs are looking even really good as well. There's a bit of battle there. I think the league's just getting a lot closer, especially in the East. In the West, it's just a powerhousing along. So it's going to be very interesting. I'd like to see the Hurricanes step it up a bit as well. I know they've got Donovan Mitchell, but apart from him, there's just nobody there at all. And I think they can probably be doing a bit better job. Okay, that's been another episode of the podcast about the TRSBA, the 26th season.